Ladies and gentlemen, let me share a truth with you today. Success isn't something you announce. It's something you build. In a world where noise is everywhere on social media, in offices, and even within our families, there is incredible power in silence. Working hard in silence is like planting seeds in a garden. It may seem quiet at first, but one day the results will bloom so brightly that no one can ignore them. You don't need to tell the world how hard you're working. You need to show them the results. Let your success be the noise that breaks the silence. Today, I want to take you on a journey to understand why working hard in silence can transform your life, your career, and your legacy. Why silence is your secret weapon. Silence is not weakness. Silence is your strength. When you work quietly, there are no distractions, no comparisons, and no expectations. You're free to focus solely on your goals. The moment you free yourself from the noise of the world, the opinions, the doubts, the endless chatter, you gain the ability to truly hear yourself. And that's where the real work begins. Imagine the great artist who spends months painting a masterpiece. They don't post a picture of the unfinished canvas. They don't seek applause for the work halfway done. They sit in the solitude of their studio, paintbrush in hand, working quietly, patiently, persistently. With each stroke of the brush, they bring their vision to life. And then one day they unveil a creation so magnificent that the whole world stops and stares. You see, silence allows you to build a foundation without interruption. It gives you the space to make mistakes, learn, and grow without the pressure of being watched. When no one is looking, you can experiment. You can fail and try again, not because someone else is expecting it, but because you are committed to it. Silence gives you the freedom to focus on progress, not perfection. And when you work in this way, the results become undeniable. Let me give you an example from history, a story that teaches us the power of relentless, silent effort. Thomas Edison, the man who invented the light bulb, did not spend his time bragging about his ideas. He didn't share his struggles every day or post updates on how close he was to success. Instead, he locked himself away in his workshop and worked tirelessly, failing over 1,000 times before he finally succeeded. Think about that, 1,000 failures. How many people would have stopped after 10? After 50? Edison understood something most people don't. Failure is not defeat, it's part of the process. Every attempt brought him closer to his goal, and he welcomed each setback as a lesson, a stepping stone. But here's the most remarkable part. When Edison finally succeeded, he didn't need to say a word. The light bulb itself became his voice. His achievement spoke so loudly that the entire world was illuminated, literally and figuratively. That's the power of working quietly. Success has a way of making its own noise. It doesn't need advertisements or explanations. It simply shines and everyone notices. Too often we feel the need to talk about our goals before we achieve them. We share our plans with friends, with coworkers, even with strangers, looking for validation or encouragement. But let me ask you something. What happens when you talk too much about your dreams? Two things. First, you set yourself up for pressure. The moment you say, "I'm going to do this," people start watching. They start expecting. Suddenly, your journey becomes less about progress and more about proving yourself to others. And when you stumble, as we all do, those expectations can feel like a heavy weight on your shoulders. The second thing that happens is even more dangerous. You invite opinions. And let me tell you something about opinions. They are free, and they are endless. Everyone has something to say. Some people will doubt you. Some will criticize you. Others will project their own fears and limitations onto your vision. Are you sure that's a good idea? What if you fail? I heard someone tried that, and it didn't work. Words like these have a way of getting under your skin. Even the most confident among us can begin to question ourselves when we hear enough negativity. But when you choose silence, you protect yourself. You keep control. You build your dream in private, away from the noise. You give yourself the space to stay focused, to stay determined, and to stay resilient. And when you finally achieve what you set out to do, no one can take that away from you, because it wasn't handed to you. It wasn't influenced by outside opinions. It was earned through your effort, your perseverance, and your belief in yourself. Think about it like this. When a seed is planted in the soil, no one sees the work happening beneath the surface. There is no applause for the roots growing deeper, for the shoots pushing through the dirt. The seed doesn't need anyone to notice. It simply does the work. And then one day a tree stands tall where there was once nothing. That tree doesn't boast about its growth. It doesn't demand attention. But its strength, its beauty, its presence are undeniable. That's what happens when you work hard in silence. The results become so powerful that people can't help but notice. Now, you might be thinking, but what about motivation? If I don't tell anyone, how will I stay accountable? Let me tell you something about accountability. The most powerful form of accountability comes from within. External validation is fleeting. It might push you forward for a day, maybe a week, but it won't sustain you in the long run. Real motivation comes from your commitment to yourself. It comes from your vision of the life you want to create. It comes from your refusal to settle for anything less than your best. Think of the athlete who trains before the sun comes up, when no one is watching. Think of the writer who stays up late into the night, pouring their thoughts onto the page, long after everyone else has gone to bed. These people don't need an audience to do the work. They do it because they are driven by something bigger, a dream, a purpose, a desire to become the best version of themselves. The truth is, when you work hard in silence, you develop a kind of discipline that can't be taught. You become someone who doesn't rely on applause or recognition to keep going. You become someone who shows up every day no matter how hard it gets, because you know the work is worth it. And when the results finally come, when you reach that goal, achieve that dream, or create that masterpiece, you won't need to tell anyone. The world will see it, the world will feel it, and the world will celebrate it. So remember, this silence is not emptiness. It's not weakness. It's not hiding. Silence is power. Silence is focus. Silence is the space where dreams are built, where greatness is created, and where legacies are born. Choose to work quietly, my friends. Protect your vision, guard your energy, and trust the process. Because when you do, the results will speak louder than any words ever could. The power of focused, quiet effort. Think about it, what happens when you focus all your energy on one goal, uninterrupted by the noise of the world. Great things happen. Your mind becomes sharper. Your productivity increases. You begin to see the kind of progress that others only dream of. Not because you're better, but because you're focused. And focus, my friends, is a rare and powerful tool in a world full of distractions. Let me share a simple story with you, a story about a young man named Michael. He loved basketball, but he wasn't the best player on his high school team. In fact, he was often overlooked. He could have given up. He could have made excuses or pointed fingers. But Michael understood something most people miss. Improvement doesn't happen under the spotlight, it happens in the shadows, in the quiet moments of hard work. So instead of complaining or showing off, Michael practiced alone. He would wake up at 5 a.m. every morning while the rest of the world was still asleep. He would go outside, pick up his basketball, and shoot hoops in silence. There were no fans cheering him on, no teammates to impress, no coaches offering praise. Just Michael and the sound of the ball hitting the ground again and again. Imagine that. Think about what it takes for someone to wake up before the sun rises, to push through fatigue and self-doubt, and to work relentlessly even when no one else is watching. It's not easy. It takes discipline. It takes a quiet resolve, a kind of inner strength that most people overlook. Michael practiced in the dark, under the streetlights, while the rest of the world was dreaming. And here's the remarkable part, his effort was quiet, but it was powerful. It was focused. And eventually that quiet work paid off. That young man grew up to be Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players in history. Think about that. The world now celebrates his success. His name is known around the globe. People talk about his talent, his skill, his greatness. But what they often forget is the foundation of quiet, focused effort that made it all possible. It wasn't the games under the bright lights that made him great. It was the unseen hours, the mornings when no one was watching, the sacrifices that no one applauded. That's where greatness is built. That's where success begins. Now let's bring it back to you. In your own life, what are you focused on? What are you quietly building? You see, success loves silence. It loves commitment without complaints. It loves focus without distractions. When you give your full attention to a goal, when you shut out the noise of the world and simply do the work, you become unstoppable. The distractions disappear. the doubts fade away. And all that's left is you and the task at hand. But here's the thing, we live in a noisy world. Everywhere you look, there's someone or something fighting for your attention. Social media, the news, other people's opinions, they all create a kind of mental clutter that makes it hard to focus. And the more distracted you are, the harder it becomes to make progress. That's why quiet effort is so powerful. It's a way to take back control. It's a way to say, I'm not going to let the world decide what I focus on. I'm going to choose. And when you choose to focus, amazing things happen. Think of it this way, imagine a magnifying glass held under the sun. If you move the magnifying glass around, the sunlight spreads out and nothing happens. But if you hold the glass still, if you focus the light on a single point, it becomes so powerful that it can start a fire. That's what focus does for your life. When your energy is scattered, nothing happens. But when you focus all your effort, all your attention on one goal, you ignite a fire that cannot be ignored. Some of the greatest achievements in history came from people who understood the power of focus, quiet effort. Think of scientists like Albert Einstein, who spent years working quietly on theories that would later change the world. Think of writers, artists, inventors, people who dedicated themselves to their craft, not for applause or recognition, but because they were driven by something deeper. They were focused on their purpose. They were focused on their work, and they didn't let the noise of the world distract them. You see, the quiet worker is a dangerous force. Why? Because no one sees them coming. They don't waste their energy talking about their plans. They don't seek validation or approval. They simply put their head down and do the work. And when the results appear, people are amazed. They say, where did this come from? But the truth is, it didn't come out of nowhere. It came from hours, days, months, sometimes years of quiet, focused effort. It came from the kind of work that no one else sees. And here's what I want you to understand: the work you do when no one is watching, that's what defines who you will become. The habits you build in private will shape the results you achieve in public. So ask yourself, what are you building? What are you focused on? Are you distracted by the noise of the world, or are you quietly working towards something meaningful? Maybe you have a dream that feels too big. Maybe you're working on something that no one else believes in. That's okay. Don't look for approval. Don't wait for someone else to give you permission to pursue your goals. Just focus. Focus on the work. Focus on the process. Focus on becoming better, one day at a time. And remember, this success doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you commit yourself to focused, consistent effort, even when no one else is watching. Because here's the truth: the world doesn't reward intentions, it rewards results. And results come from action. Results come from focus. Results come from the quiet work that no one applauds, the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices that others don't see. So if you want to achieve something great, learn to embrace the quiet. Learn to love the process. Learn to show up every day, not because someone is watching, but because you are committed to your own growth. The power of focus, quiet effort is this: it doesn't depend on external motivation. It doesn't rely on recognition or applause. It comes from within. And when you learn to harness that power, there's nothing you can't achieve. So keep working. Keep focusing. Keep building. And remember, the results will speak for themselves. Avoid the trap of seeking validation. One of the greatest dangers to success is the need for approval. In today's world, it's easy to fall into this trap because validation has never been more accessible. We post our plans, our goals, our small victories, and we wait. We wait for the likes, the comments, the praise from others. We become so addicted to hearing "good job" or "you're amazing" that we forget what success really requires: consistent, quiet, focused effort. The truth is, validation from others might make you feel good for a moment, but it doesn't move you forward. It doesn't pay your bills. It doesn't build your dreams. Think about this for a moment. If applause could make you successful, wouldn't everyone be successful? If compliments could pay the price of hard work, wouldn't everyone reach their goals? But that's not how life works. Success isn't handed to you on a silver platter. It isn't built on compliments or approval. It's built on persistence, effort, and an unshakable focus that doesn't depend on what others think. When you constantly seek validation, you give your power away. You let the opinions of others dictate your path. You start to doubt yourself when the applause stops. You start to question your worth when people stop noticing your efforts. And before you know it, you're no longer working for your dreams, you're working for approval. But here's the hard truth: the applause you're chasing today will fade tomorrow. The compliments you're seeking won't matter when you're alone at night, still far from your goals. And the validation you crave now won't sustain you when the challenges get tough. Let me share a story with you. It's the story of a struggling writer, a woman named J.K. Rowling. You see, before she became one of the most successful authors in history, she faced rejection after rejection. 12 publishers told her no. 12 times her work was dismissed. Imagine that for a moment. Imagine pouring your heart and soul into something, only to hear over and over again that it's not good enough. She could have given up. She could have posted about her struggles to gain sympathy. She could have sought validation from the people around her, hoping they would say, "Don't worry, you're amazing," but she didn't. Instead, she kept writing. She kept improving. She kept working quietly, persistently, and without fanfare. And when her moment finally came, her work spoke louder than any rejection she had ever faced. The lesson here is simple: results speak for themselves. Success doesn't come from seeking approval, it comes from refusing to quit. J.K. Rowling's story is proof that you don't need validation to build something extraordinary. You need belief in yourself, and you need action. You need to be willing to work when no one else is cheering. You need to keep going when no one else believes in you. Because here's the thing: the world may not see your vision right now, but that doesn't mean it isn't worth pursuing. Think about the people you admire, the inventors, the artists, the leaders, the athletes. Did they become successful because the world cheered for them every step of the way? No. Most of them faced rejection, criticism, and doubt. But they didn't let that stop them. They didn't wait for applause to take action. They didn't seek validation before believing in themselves. They simply did the work, day after day, until the results became undeniable. Now let me ask you, who are you working for? Are you working for the applause, or are you working for the outcome? Are you chasing likes and compliments, or are you chasing greatness? Because the two don't go hand in hand. When you focus on seeking approval, you lose sight of your purpose. You get distracted, you start worrying about what other people think instead of doing what needs to be done. But when you focus on the work, when you put your head down and commit to the process, something incredible happens. You begin to improve. You begin to see progress. And eventually your results will speak so loudly that the world can't ignore you. You see, the need for validation is like a weight that holds you back. It keeps you from moving forward. It keeps you from taking risks. It keeps you from being bold, because you're afraid of what others might say. But here's the truth: you don't need their approval. You don't need their applause. You don't need anyone to tell you that you're good enough. You already are. Your work, your effort, your commitment, that's what matters. And if you stay focused on that, the results will take care of themselves. Think about a tree growing in the forest. When it's young, no one notices it. It grows quietly day by day, year by year by year. It doesn't shout. Look at me, it doesn't ask for approval, it simply grows. And one day that tree becomes so strong, so tall, so magnificent that everyone stops to admire it. But the growth, the real work, happened in silence, unseen by the world. The same is true for you. Your growth doesn't need to be broadcast. Your effort doesn't need applause. The validation you're seeking is already inside you. So stop waiting for the world to approve of your dreams. Stop looking for permission to take action. Stop chasing likes and compliments, because they will never be enough. Instead, focus on the work. Focus on getting better. Focus on the quiet, unseen moments when no one is watching, because that's where success is built. And here's the beautiful part: when you learn to work without seeking validation, you free yourself. You stop caring about what other people think. You stop worrying about their opinions. And you start moving forward with confidence, knowing that your effort is what matters most. You start to realize that success isn't about impressing others, it's about becoming the best version of yourself. So I challenge you: work hard in silence. Let go of the need for approval. Believe in your vision, even if no one else does. Trust the process, even when it's hard. And keep going, even when no one is cheering. Because if you do that, if you stay committed, focused, and consistent, there will come a day when your results speak for themselves. And on that day, you won't need anyone's applause, because you'll know that you earned it. You'll know that the quiet work you did in the shadows built something extraordinary. And that, my friends, is a success worth chasing. Let's talk about consistency. The most successful people don't work hard for a day, a week, or a month. They work hard every single day. Consistency is boring, yes, but it's powerful. It's like water dripping on a stone. At first, it seems like nothing is happening. But over time, the stone begins to crack. Not because of noise, but because of consistent, silent effort. Think about a professional athlete training for the Olympics. They wake up at dawn, push their bodies to the limit, eat meals designed for performance, and sacrifice their personal time. Day after day, they repeat this process. They don't post every training session online. They don't shout about their routines. Instead, they focus on the work. The world only sees them once every 4 years, standing on the podium, holding the gold medal, and calling them talented, but that medal wasn't earned in the spotlight. It was earned in the early mornings, the late nights, and the moments of quiet sacrifice when no one else was around to cheer for them. This is what consistency looks like: doing the right thing, over and over again, no matter how monotonous it feels. Success doesn't come from one big, loud, dramatic action. It comes from 1,000 small, disciplined actions, repeated day in and day out. Most people give up because they don't see results fast enough. They want instant gratification. They want to plant a seed today and eat the fruit tomorrow. But life doesn't work that way. A farmer plants a seed, waters it every day, nurtures it, and waits patiently for months before the harvest comes. Imagine if the farmer gave up halfway, the crops would never grow. The same principle applies to you. If you want to build something meaningful, you need to embrace the quiet, patient work of consistency. You need to show up every day, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it, even when no one is watching. And when you do, something incredible begins to happen. You start to build momentum. At first, progress feels slow, almost invisible. But as you keep showing up, your small efforts compound. Like a snowball rolling down a hill, consistency turns your small actions into unstoppable progress. Consider the story of a writer who dreams of publishing a best-selling novel. Writing a book is no small task. It requires discipline, creativity, and countless hours of work. But the writer doesn't sit down and write an entire book in a day. Instead, they write 1 page a day. Just 1 page. At the end of a year, they have 365 pages. A finished manuscript. And yet, most people would overlook that 1-page effort because it seems insignificant. But those small, daily actions done consistently turn dreams into reality. Let me tell you about a businessman I once knew. He started his first company in a small garage with nothing but a vision and a work ethic. For years, he worked in silence. No one knew his name. No one saw the sacrifices he made or the countless hours he spent refining his product. He faced failures, setbacks, and moments of doubt, but he stayed consistent. He showed up every single day and kept working. Years later, that small company became a global brand and people started calling him an overnight success. But the truth is, there were no shortcuts. It wasn't luck or talent that got him there. It was his relentless consistency, the work he did when no one was watching. Most people underestimate the power of consistency because it doesn't look glamorous. It's not flashy or exciting, it's repetitive, it's quiet. But make no mistake, consistency is the most powerful tool you have. When you show up every day, when you put in the work without seeking praise, you become unstoppable. You build a foundation so strong that nothing can shake it. Think about the great scientists of the world. The cures they discovered, the breakthroughs they achieved, the revolutions they sparked, none of it happened overnight. It was the result of years, sometimes decades, of quiet, consistent effort. They spent hours in laboratories, testing, failing, learning, and trying again. They didn't seek validation for their work along the way. They didn't quit when the results weren't immediate. They stayed focused, they stayed patient, and eventually their work changed the world. You see, success isn't built in the moments of noise, it's built in the moments of silence. It's built when you choose to keep going, even when no one else believes in you. It's built when you hold yourself to a higher standard and refuse to settle for less. The truth is, consistency is not just about what you do, it's about who you become. When you commit to showing up every day, you develop discipline. You build character. You become the kind of person who doesn't quit no matter how hard it gets. Think about a mountain. It doesn't rise to its majestic height in a single day. It's formed over thousands of years, shaped by the forces of nature, one layer at a time. That's what consistency does for you. It builds you one layer at a time until you become unshakable. And when the world finally sees your success, they won't understand the years of silent work that went into it. They'll only see the mountain. But you'll know that it was the quiet, patient work of consistency that brought you there. The lesson is simple: don't chase noise. Don't look for shortcuts. Don't seek praise for every step you take. Instead, focus on the work. Show up every day no matter how you feel. Do the little things that move you closer to your goal, even when no one else is watching. Because in the end, it's not the noise that matters, it's the results. And the results are built on consistency. So ask yourself this: are you willing to put in the work quietly and consistently? Are you willing to do what others won't so you can achieve what others can't? If you are, then success is not a question of if, it's a question of when. Because when you work with consistency, success becomes inevitable. And when it comes, it will be louder than any noise you could have ever made along the way. So what happens when you work hard in silence? Success becomes your voice. You don't need to tell people what you're doing. They will see it for themselves. Imagine a tree growing in the forest. It doesn't make noise as it grows. But when it stands tall, its strength and beauty become undeniable. When you work quietly, you surprise the world. You inspire others. People will say, "Where did he come from? How did she do it?" They won't see the long nights, the early mornings, or the quiet struggles, but they will see the results. And those results will speak louder than any words you could ever say. Think about a musician who spends years practicing alone. Day after day, they repeat the same scales, the same melodies, perfecting their craft. No one sees the hours they spend in solitude, listening to their instrument and making small adjustments. Then one day, that musician steps onto a stage and delivers a performance so breathtaking that the audience is left in awe. The room is silent not because no one cares, but because they are overwhelmed by the power of the results. The music, the notes, the mastery, it speaks for itself. No explanation is needed. The success makes the noise. Let me share with you a story about a man who let his work speak louder than his words. This man had big dreams. He was determined to create something that would change his life. He started a small business from his garage. There were no grand announcements, no flashy advertisements, and no loud proclamations. Instead, he spent years working quietly, perfecting his product and making every detail count. He didn't waste his time talking about what he planned to do, he just did it. Years later, his little garage project grew into one of the most successful companies in the world. That man was Steve Jobs, and his quiet, focused work gave us Apple, a brand known across the globe. He didn't have to boast about his effort. His success became the noise that spoke for him. Now think about nature. A seed doesn't shout when it's planted. It doesn't announce to the world, "I'm growing." It simply takes root in silence. It draws the nourishment it needs from the soil and the sun, and slowly but surely it grows. It may take weeks, months, or even years, but one day it breaks through the earth. It emerges tall, proud, and strong. That's what working in silence is like. The world doesn't need to know what you're doing underground. When the time is right, your success will emerge, and it will be impossible to ignore. One of the greatest joys of working quietly is the element of surprise. You see, when people don't know what you're up to, they don't see you coming. They don't expect your greatness. And then when you unveil the results of your hard work, you inspire others in ways you never thought possible. You show people that anything is achievable if they are willing to focus, work hard, and stay silent. Think about some of the greatest success stories in history. They all follow this pattern: quiet effort, unseen preparation, and extraordinary results that speak for themselves. It's easy to fall into the trap of wanting recognition before the work is done. Social media has made it tempting to seek applause for every small step we take. We post our goals, our plans, and our efforts, hoping someone will validate us, cheer us on, or give us a pat on the back. But here's the truth: applause is temporary, and it can distract you from the work that really matters. Real success isn't built on likes or compliments. It's built on dedication, perseverance, and silent, consistent effort. Imagine you're training for a marathon. You wake up early every morning while the rest of the world is still asleep. You lace up your shoes and run miles in the dark with no one watching. At first, it's hard. Your legs are heavy, your lungs are burning, and you question why you're doing this. But you keep going. Day after day, you run in silence. You don't post about it. You don't seek validation. You just run. And then on the day of the marathon, you cross the finish line with strength and pride. People see you running that final stretch and they cheer. They see the result of your work, but they don't see the countless mornings of effort you put in when no one was watching. That's the power of letting success make the noise. Success doesn't come to those who shout the loudest about their plans. It comes to those who work quietly, consistently, and relentlessly. It comes to those who don't waste energy seeking approval, but instead pour all their energy into their craft. It comes to those who trust the process, even when no one else can see the progress. You have to believe in your own journey enough to work on it in silence, knowing that one day the results will speak for you. Remember this, results are louder than words. The world doesn't need to hear about your dreams, it needs to see them come to life. The world doesn't need to know about your struggles, it needs to see your strength. The world doesn't need constant updates on your progress, it needs to see you finish what you started. So don't worry about telling people what you're working on. Don't waste time trying to convince others of your potential. Just work hard, work smart, work quietly. And when the time is right, let your success make the noise. Because the truth is, when you achieve something great, you won't need to say a word. The results will say it all. People will notice, they will be inspired. And your success will echo louder and farther than anything you could ever say. Ladies and gentlemen, remember this, silence is not empty. It's full of answers. It's full of strength. It's full of growth. Work hard in silence and let your success do the talking. Don't chase recognition. Chase excellence. Don't seek approval. Seek progress. And don't worry about what people think today. Focus on where you're going tomorrow. Because when you work hard, patiently and quietly, the day will come when the whole world will hear your success story. And they won't just applaud, they'll be inspired to follow your example. Thank you.